Good day everyone and welcome to our review for Psychologists and Psychometricians board exam. At this point, we will be focusing on theories of personality and we will have 20 questions for this session. So please prepare paper and pen to answer this drill. But before we start, kung hindi ka pa nakasubscribe sa channel na ito, mag-subscribe na. I-like and i-share mo na rin para mas marami pang makinabang sa mga drills na gagawin natin para sa mga sessions natin. You may pause the video kung nabibilisan ka sa aking pagsasalita para mas mabasa mo yung mga questions na sasagutan mo and answer them at your own pace. Ready ka na ba? Let's start! Theories of Personality Review Questions. Number 1. What convinced Freud of the psychogenic origins of hysterical symptom? A. His research at the Physiological Institute while a medical student. B. His use of Charcot's hypnotic technique for treating hysteria. C. Brewer's treatment of Anna O by catharsis. Or D. His observations of the neurotic behavior of his brothers and sister. Number 2. What do slip of the tongue and neurotic symptoms have in common? A. Freud discovered them after years of research. B. They directly prove the existence of the id. C. They indirectly prove the existence of the unconscious. Or D. They are the source of dreams. Number 3. An important function of repression is to A. Protect the person against the pain of anxiety. B. Convert superego functions into ego functions. C. Protect the person against public disgrace. Or D. Convert id functions into ego function. Number 4. The id primarily involved in which of the following activities? A. Solving problems in geometry. B. Contemplating the meaning of life. C. Salivating at the sight of food. Or D. Convincing a friend to plant a garden. Number 5. Areas of the body specially capable of producing sexual pleasure are called A. Instinct zones. B. Genital organs. C. Pleasure principal areas. Or D. Erogenous zone. Number 6. An expression of both life and death instinct is A. Narcissism. B. Superego. C. Love. Or D. Masochism. Number 7. Transference is necessary to A. Treat psychosis and other constitutional illness. B. Understand the latent content of dream. C. Prevents the development of neurosis after treatment. Or D. Free libido from neurotic symptom. Number 8. In Jungian psychology, repressed, forgotten, and subliminally perceived experiences of the individual are part of the A. Ego. B. Persona. C. Personal unconscious. D. Collective unconscious. Number 9. The psychic counterpart of instinct is A. Introversion. B. Intuition. C. Extraversion. And D. Archetype. Number 10. Freud's concept of phylogenetic endowment is similar to Jung's idea of A. Ego. B. Personal unconscious. C. Self. Or D. Collective unconscious. Number 11. A man dominated by great mother archetype. A. Enjoys caring for small children. B. Possesses an animus instead of anima. C. Has psychologically immature view of women. Or D. See other males as mothering type. Number 12. The archetype of wisdom and meaning is A. Anima, B. Self, C. Animus, or D. Old wise man. 13. The ego is divided into objective and subjective aspect during the blank space of childhood. Is it A. Dualistic, B. Anarchic, C. Monarchic, or D. Bimodal? Number 14. Adler's earliest memory concerned A. Comparison with his older, healthier brother, B. An active interest in helping others, C. Neglect by his mother, D. His desire to become a famous psychologist. Number 15. During his general practice as a doctor, Adler A. Treated mental illness with antipsychotic drugs, B. Completely separated physical and mental aspect of illness, C. Developed serious organ inferiority, or D. Regarded illness as a reflection of the total personality. Number 16. The following are the goals towards which people strive, except A. Fictional, B. Delusional, C. The creation of creative power, or D. Largely unknown to individual. Number 17. Unlike Freud, Adler believed that A. People are basically narcissistic, B. Narcissism is an inherent human characteristic, C. Sublimation is necessary for social interest, or D. Narcissism is a form of neurosis. Number 18. Adler believed that maladjusted people A. Set their goals too low, B. Set their goals too high, C. Set too many goals, or D. Set no goals. 19. Which factor does not describe maladjusted people? A. A dogmatic style of life, B. An inflated social interest, C. An exaggerated goal, and D. A private world of experience. And number 20. Adler's concept of moving backward is similar to Freud's concept of A. Fixation, B. Repression, C. Progression, or D. Regression. And now we go to answers and explanation. Number 1. What convinced Freud of the psychogenic origins of hysterical symptoms? The answer is letter B. His use of Charcot's hypnotic technique for treating hysteria. In 1885, Freud received a traveling grant from the University of Vienna and decided to study in Paris with the famous French neurologist Jean-Martin Charcot. He spent 4 months with Charcot, from whom he learned the hypnotic technique for treating hysteria, a disorder typically characterized by paralysis or improper functions of certain parts of the body. And through hypnosis, Freud became convinced of a psychogenic and sexual origin of hysterical symptom. So yung tinasabi natin dito na hysteria, ito ngayon yung tinatawag natin na FNSD or Functional Neurological Symptom Disorder. Na another term na ginagamit natin ay conversion disorder. Number 2. What do slip of the tongue and neurotic symptom have in common? The answer, letter C. They indirectly prove the existence of the unconscious. Because the unconscious is not available to the conscious mind, how can one, if it really exists, prove it? Freud felt that its existence could be proved only indirectly. To him, the unconscious is the explanation for the meaning behind dreams, slip of the tongue, and certain kinds of forgetting called repression. Number 3. An important function of repression is to answer. Letter A. Protect the person against the pain of anxiety. Punishment and suppression often create feelings of anxiety, and the anxiety in turn stimulates repression. That is, the forcing of unwanted anxiety-ridden experiences into the unconscious as a defense against the pain of anxiety. Next, number 4. The id primarily involves in which of the following activities? The answer, letter C, salivating at the sight of food. The id has no contact with reality, yet it strives constantly to reduce tension by satisfying basic desires. Because its sole function is to seek pleasure, we say that the id serves as the pleasure principle. Number 5. Areas of the body specially capable of producing sexual pleasures are called letter D, erogenous zone. The aim of the sexual drive is pleasure, but this pleasure is not limited to genital satisfaction. Freud believed that the entire body is invested with libido. Beside the genital, the mouth and the anus are specially capable of producing sexual pleasure and are called erogenous zone. So the ultimate aim of sexual drive is to reduce sexual tension. It cannot be changed, but the path by which the aim is reached can be varied. Next number. An expression of both life and death instinct is? The answer is masochism. Masochism, like sadism, is a common need, but it becomes a perversion when eros becomes subservient to the destructive drive. Masochists experience sexual pleasure from suffering pain and humiliation inflicted either by themselves or by others. And because masochists can provide self-inflicted pain, they do not depend on other person for the satisfaction of masochistic needs. In contrast, sadists must seek and find another person on whom to inflict pain or humiliation. In this respect, they are more dependent than masochists on other people. Next. Number 7. Transference is necessary to. The answer? Letter D. Free libido from neurotic symptom. In the first, all the libido is forced from the symptoms into the transference and concentrated there. In the second, the struggle is waged around this new object and the libido is liberated from it. Number 8. In Jungian psychology, repressed, forgotten, or subliminally perceived experiences of the individual are part of the letter C, personal unconscious. The personal unconscious embraces all repressed, forgotten, or subliminally perceived experiences of one particular individual. In contrast, repressed infantile memories and impulses, forgotten events, and experiences originally perceived below the threshold of our consciousness. Number 9. The psychic counterpart of instinct is the archetype, letter D. Archetype should also be distinguished from instinct. Jung defined an instinct as an unconscious physical impulse towards action, and so the archetype as the psychic counterpart to an instinct. Number 10. Freud's concept of phylogenetic endowment is similar to Jung's idea of letter D, collective unconscious. Freud also believed that people collectively inherent predisposition to action. His concept of phylogenetic endowment, however, differs somewhat from Jung's formulation. One difference was that Freud looked first to the personal unconscious and resorted to the phylogenetic endowment only when individual explanations failed, as he sometimes did when explaining the Oedipus complex. In contrast, Jung placed primary emphasis on the collective unconscious and used personal experiences to round out the total personality. 11. A man dominated by great mother archetype. The answer, letter C, has psychologically immature view of women. Content of the personal unconscious are called complexes. A complex is an emotionally toned conglomeration of associated ideas. For example, a person's experience with mother may become grouped around an emotional core so that the person's mother or even the word mother sparks an emotional response that blocks the smooth flow of thought. Complexes are largely personal, but they may also be partly derived from humanity's collective experience. Number 12. The archetype of wisdom and meaning is the old wise man. The wise old man, archetype of wisdom and meaning, symbolizes humans' pre-existing knowledge of the mysteries of life. The archetypal meaning, however, is unconscious and cannot be directly experienced by a single individual. Politicians and others who speak authoritatively but not authentically often sound sensible and wise to others, who are all too willing to be misled by their own wise old man archetype. Number 13. The ego is divided into objective and subjective aspect during the blank phase of childhood. The answer is letter A. The ego, as perceiver, arises during the dualistic phase of childhood, when the ego is divided into the objective and subjective. Children now refer to themselves in the first person and are aware of their existence as separate individuals. Next number. Adler's earliest memory concerned A. Comparison with his older, healthier brother. Adler's poor health was in sharp contrast to the health of his older brother Sigmund. Several of Adler's earliest memories were concerned with the unhappy competition between his brother's good health and his own illness. Sigmund Adler, the childhood rival whom Adler attempted to surpass, remained a worthy opponent, and in latter years, he became very successful in business and even helped Alfred financially. By almost any standards, however, Alfred Adler was much more famous than Sigmund Adler. Number 15. During his general practice as doctor, Adler, letter D, regarded illness as a reflection of the totality of personality. Number 16. The following are goals toward which people strive except letter B, delusion. Siyempre, wala naman naghahagad na tao na maging delusional. Number 17. Unlike Freud, Adler believed that letter D, narcissism is a form of neurosis. Number 18. Adler believed that maladjusted people, letter B, set their goals too high. According to Adler, the one factor underlying all types of maladjustment is underdeveloped social interest. Besides lacking social interest, neurotics tend to, number 1, set their goals too high. Number 2, live in their own private world. And number 3, have a rigid and dogmatic style of life. Number 19. Which factor does not describe maladjusted people? The answer, inflated social interest. And number 20, Adler's concept of moving backward is similar to Freud's concept of regression. Moving backward is a tendency to safeguard one's fictional goal of superiority by psychologically reverting to a more secure period of life. Moving backward is similar to Freud's concept of regression in that both involve attempt to return to earlier, more comfortable phases of life, whereas people against anxiety-filled experience, or whereas regression takes place unconsciously and protects people against anxiety-filled experience, moving backward may sometimes be conscious and is directed at maintaining at an inflated goal of superiority. Moving backward is designed to elicit sympathy, the deleterious attitude offered so generously to pampered children. And that's the end of our drill for today. I hope meron ka natutunan. Mag-share and mag-subscribe na rin by clicking the subscribe button and hit the notification bell for updates on our drill. Keep safe and have a nice day. Goodbye.